Hi my friends, I'm hoping this is a quick video because I'm trying to make them a little bit faster and shorter because I know everybody's got so much to do. So anyway, boy, I tell you what just happened to me. My gosh, there was a semi truck hauling gasoline, right, flying, coming down here, and this guy, I kid you not, in his vehicle swerves to try to pass him, and it just hot rodding. I saw him, he came by just about a minute ago, come flying there doing about 80 on this road, which is it's actually a road that you don't want to be doing that in because it has a turn at the end of it, and also there's always semi trucks can gasoline, well, whatever, right? So he comes flying down here, and he tries to pass the guy, this 2 tanks full of gasoline, and tries to pass him, and he's coming head on for me. I kid you not. I mean, I see his headlights straight at me, kind of like this. So there's another semi truck. Well, the other guy, so this guy comes passing this guy, and I thought he was going to kill me. I'm ready to jump out towards the bushes to the right, but it was happening so fast I couldn't move. So he darts out, peels the tires back in behind him, slams on his brakes, and passes back in behind this guy. I mean, see, this thing is dangerous. These gas and oil. Whoa! I mean, it scared me. I thought I was going to squash between my Suburban and him. But anyway, so there I've been rambling. I apologize. I got to stay focused and get this going faster. Well, anyway, it scared me. I thought, is it for Kirk? And these idiots. I tell you, these people are such idiots. I mean, seriously, having an explosion with a diesel and whatever gasoline, and racing up and down this thing. You got a bike you can't see anyway. Hey, bud, how you doing? So, I'm going to stay focused here. I apologize. It's already a minute into this thing. Okay, so here's the thing is, I'm starting to think about our reality again. You got all these decoding your realities and stuff like this. And the reason I got to keep bringing this up is that, it doesn't really matter. You can stop right now and enjoy your life and move on. And, I'm kind of trying to pull back and get more grounded, right? And just kind of try to live more in the moment of the power of now, the moment of now, and just trying to relax and not worry about everything like this. But every time I get dragged back into it because of something spiritual happens or these things happen, right? Well, anyway, so here's what's interesting about this. And you got to hear me out, because remember, even Matt from Quantum Conscience, he says, keep everything on the table. So I'm just putting this on the table, right? And I've kind of figured out the spiritual world and these things like that. We've had some of you brothers and sisters done a great job calming this and stuff like that, and we're paying attention. But we know certain facts. What we know is, right, we know that it's kind of scripted, right? Even Jim Carrey figured this one out, which is amazing, right? Jim Carrey said, oh my gosh, I'm playing the Truman Show as Jim Carrey. And so anyway, so it changed his life, and he said, I'm no longer Jim Carrey, but you can watch that YouTube about that. But so here's what I'm heading with this. So I'm like, what? Everybody's like, what is this fake world? This whole world's fake. There's puppets, there's NPCs, they call them human prison bars, there's soulless ones, all these things, that it's so artificial. This whole world is fake. And we know that, but even Scripture said, in this world but not of this world. So that's kind of where we're at with the Lord. And so I'm heading some with this. So everybody's like, God, what is this reality? What's this? The Mandela effect. Is a Mandela effect within a Mandela effect? I mean, there's all these questions. And there's some great ones out there. Decoding your reality. There's great ones out there. Like I said, Matt does a great job. Very good at analyzing stuff. And he just puts it on the table and just flat. That's what it is, right? And, he's great. But anyway. So I was looking at the things that I know, studying all these different things and all these things, even going back to philosophers like Plato and Socrates, that we can prove that even Socrates or Plato said something about shadows on the wall. That he said, even then, he's trying to describe, this scripted, artificial world where, it's kind of like a movie, a theater, and we're all this kind of like these characters, and you can look at that one. So he actually, even back then, knew about these things. And many people, they talked about some Native Americans. I mean, you look this up, way old tribes that said they didn't know how to describe simulations because different eras than us. They said that we're living in a simulation. They said this a long time ago, right? A long time ago. And we also know through the double slit experiment that it proves that this kind of is an artificial world. Sorry, I'm moving the camera around a little bit. I'm just trying to give you something to look at while we're sitting here. But so we know through the double slit experiment, that one, that you have to be observer and nothing really gets generated or rendered in this world. So it's rendering, generating. That's what it's this computer. You render something, right? We know the term render it. Until there's an observer or something interacts with it, right? There has to be something there to render it. That's what makes it interesting, because they said that if we're living in a computer, then, maybe it's like I see this right in front of me, but I might be in a bubble. There's nothing outside this other than it's rendering around me, right? And so even you, that's like in your little house or whatever, there's actually nothing outside the door. It just gets rendered as you move along. That's how you could save computing power and energy, is having things rendered, like in a multiplayer game where, as far as I can see or smell or touch, I'm hinting with this, right? That's as far as this reality is. And as I move down my vehicle down the road, it's rendering those things as I come along, right? And that could explain whether real or not, people said they see glitches in the Matrix. Or there's a glitch because maybe something, it couldn't render it, or something got interfered with that rendering. Or maybe there was another player, like you or me, came, and it was like, oh, we got to render this together now, because now we have two key players. I'm not saying let's just say a key player. I'm not trying to be boasting, because we don't know that you're different than some of these other people in this world. It's just a fact, right? We're not insulting. We're just different, right? We have souls and all these things. We're different. We're true, whatever it is. So we come together and it has to render something, right? So I was thinking about this, is that what do I know that's true? Because, everything that we are exposed to in this world, we have to use our taste, touch, smell, read, all these things and knowledge, right? And information. So we have to take information to understand our reality. And that's what makes this interesting, is that we're fed all this information, even today, of our past. We don't know if any of that's real or not. We have no idea whether George Washington even was real. Now, you say, well, Kirk's lost his mind. We don't. What if it was just a story? Kind of like how they do predictive programming, they do predictive past, where these characters didn't actually exist. That it's just part of this computer simulation. Or it could have been another reality or planet that had this guy named George Washington. I'm hitting some of this, because think about this, that everything we know could be a lie, that there was, how long has the Earth been here? We don't know. Everything I know, even from what everybody's telling me, is my experiences through life. That's the only truth I know. The only truth is I know that, I used to be at some place in Montrose when I was growing up, and I did these things. I rode a motorbike, and I went to school, Johnson Elementary, and I used to go out to school. I'd ride my motorbike and watch the sunset and go fishing with my friends there in high school. And that is the only reality I can actually know is the truth. Because everything else, even before or after those memories are created, could have been a lie, right? Or just non-existent. And so that's the thing, is in today, this is what blows my mind, is that all I know is what I see and what I'm experiencing right now. And no offense to you, brothers and sisters, I'm not trying to insult you, but how do I know you're even real? Some of you comment on my message board, but you could just be some kind of computer algorithm, like an NPC that just, let's make Kirk think he's part of the game, right? That's a game of life. That's a simulation. So how did Trump, because seriously, the behavior out of these politicians, nobody could behave like this. Seriously, the way they, it's, Biden, all these politicians and the news and all, there is no way. You're thinking, how could this actually function? How could these people, Elon Musk, how can they do these things, ignore that they're starving people and wherever, and ignore the world, and they're off in their own little mission, and we know that their lives are scripted, because, we know, like Queen Elizabeth, that we know by dates. It's too obvious that the dates you track her, it is too perfect. And it's like, you gotta be kidding me. So is this lady even real? And we said, well, Kurt, how could you say that? Have I ever stood in front of her? Have you talked to her before she passed away? I mean, just because the TV gave it to you, and that's television, it's all programming. It's just like running a script to you, making you think it's real. I mean, I don't know if it's real or not. Who knows? Trump may not even be real. You say, oh my God, but they have my TV. Yeah, but they do, right? See, you don't know, and I don't know. Because I have not stood in front of the guy. I mean, it could all be bull crap. And so there's the problem you have, is that the only reality that I know is the reality of my experiences. Right now I'm sitting in a lawn chair looking out here, and that's my reality, and that's what I'll write down in my memory. Because even memories are useless. We see that in the Mandela effect. Memories can be wiped to these NPCs. They can change stories, change scripts, whatever, and rewrite history. History is his story. We don't even know anything about history. It's useless. So back to the current moment. I have no idea what's real. I mean, seriously. So if I fly to Washington and D.C. and maybe I meet Trump, and they say, okay, well then he's real, but is he? See, because we have NPCs that I know that they're not real. That they take a download, or they'll play along for a while. And all of a sudden they get angry, and they get frustrated if you start questioning them about Mandela effects and stuff like that. They lose their minds. It's like they can't, like the system's protecting itself. It says, nope, you're not going to go there, Kirk. You know, see, because I've had that where when Mandela effect first started, I couldn't talk to anybody. If I start bringing it up, it's like immediately a defense, attack, walk away, yelled at, screamed at by them. I'm like, whoa, it's like something protecting them. You know, is it the person or is it the system? It's the system where we look at it. It's, you know, whether they're taking that person over, whatever it means it's doing, it is real that there is people that you cannot engage them, or it gets to be a nightmare with Mandela effect, right? Or they run away. That's like Matt said, you're like the elephant in the room, even with his relatives. He said, boy, he goes, I don't know if I'm going to get invited to more holidays, because I'm not invited to anymore. Thanksgiving, see nothing with the family. They will not invite me. And it's not things I said, it's just like, boy, you get too close to the system, he might start talking. So I'm heading some of this. So we do not know if anything is real. And it sounds a scary thought, and I don't want you to panic. We don't know if any of these people are real. You know, the thing is, even my family members, I can't guarantee my kids' behaviors are way different than when I started the Mandela effect. Way different. And I'm serious, their behavior's off the wall. Even my daughter, I do not understand her. Even my mother said tonight, she goes, boy, what has really happened to her? She is not the lady that I remember, Kirk. And she's kind of a mess, to be honest with you. And so anyway, I'm in some of this. It's kind of a scary thought. It's a lonely world if you're thinking that maybe there's just a few of us, whatever that number is, that are fully awake. And we've been separated on purpose, by the way. That's why, you know, the closest one I know is, you know, full awake is probably Raleigh in Boise, Idaho. He's the only other one. I mean, and, you know, and some of these are fake ones. The ones that you see on Running Mandela Effect, I know they're fake. The system's got in them running Mandela Effect. I don't mention names, but I know these people are real. If they're real, they got a long ways to do to be a nice human being, because they just taken advantage of it. And, you know, so my point is that we really don't know what's happening. I know it's already 14 minutes, so it'll be faster. It's just so important. I'm kind of rambling, but I'm just tired, so I got a headache. Which, by the way, I didn't have a headache but once in a blue moon. Isn't that crazy? Just think about that. It happens once in a blue moon. So, and in my old reality, there was never all these blue moons. No, we didn't. I mean, gosh, we never talked about blue moon. And I don't even remember ever hearing of a blue moon, just the harvest moon, and maybe, you know, a couple eclipses here and there in my old Earth or reality. And now it's like blue moons, like, you know, every year. You kidding me? I think there's the one year, there's 2 or 3 blue moons. I'm like, you kidding me? I don't know I think this year we had this weird one, the cherry, and they had every name for it, red cherry, blah blah blah, but it's strawberry and all these other names. But I'm sure there's a blue moon this year, probably. Just never ever. There's always wondering about the songs that are written about blue. There's a ton of them. Blue moon, and all these blue moon songs. And I'm like, God, even my older brother said, where's a blue moon? I've never seen one. So it's more of just a song, right? Way. There's probably something to that once in a blue moon. So I got distracted. So think about that for a minute. So I'm going to go back to this whole thing about when it all started. When this started, it was around 2015 when I first was awake to the Mandela effect and started really digging into the spiritual world and stuff like that. I knew something was wrong. Not wrong. I knew something was different, because whether it's wrong or right, I can't judge it. But I knew something was different when, in 2015, when I went outside. I'm like, man, this sun something's off. It's white. I said, and the shadows in the trees looked wrong, and everything looked kind of artificial, and I just knew immediately I was at home. Isn't that weird? I didn't have to read the Mandela effect to know that something had happened. And there's actually a term for that. It's kind of like, I can't remember the term. And that's kind of where we're at today. I'll explain more about this. It's kind of like if you ever went to Disneyland and, where you're out in the sun and enjoying the day, and all of a sudden you go into, it was like, I can't remember that ride. It was like, the Pirates of the Caribbean. You get immersed into it, and you kind of become that part of your reality. We're floating down a boat and listen to the crickets in the nighttime, and all of a sudden there's cannons blowing off and stuff like that. So it's kind of like you get immersed in that new reality. It's a transition between this real world and you went into this fake world, and then you come out the end of this real world again, right? It's kind of like what we are now, because there's a term for this. And they said there's actually people who've traveled through these dimension or whatever, and I don't know if it's new age garbage or what, because you can't believe anything these days. They've actually transitioned to these temporary earths or places where there's nobody there, right? And then all of a sudden they come back, and then they said all of a sudden, like, there's people back on this area, this place, this world, right? Some people say they've gone into rooms. It's like, they're I don't know how that works out there. You walk into, like they're walking into their bedroom, and they come out and walk into another room, and it's like there's nobody in there. There's a chair or something, or something weird, and they just temporarily be there in a temporary moment, and they pop back into their dimension. Now, I don't know, because I've heard all the bull crap out there. Now I don't even really know, but I do know that there is that sense of being transitioned. We're stuck between a temporary holding place. And that's kind of what this earth feels like, doesn't it? It feels like purgatory. It's kind of like I remember old reality, things weren't great, but it's kind of like smoother. And this place, like, man, I feel like that's it. I went in the shock of, what is this place? It looks the same, smells the same, and everything, but something's off, right? So that was my first hint that Mandela. And I started, so then my first one, I was sitting on a computer one day, and I noticed that they said John F. Kennedy, there was 6 people in the car versus 4, and I was counting them immediately, because I know how to search. I've read how search engines. I've did in software how to make search engines. I used to use it for technology to. We actually helped Yahoo, even under the covers, for advertising, how to quickly do full text searches in databases, and they used me at Sybase to help design those search criteria. And I had to learn from actually the guy who wrote his book on regular expression pattern matchings. So my point is this, that I know how to scan Google quickly. I mean, beyond just the basic typing words in. I use pluses and minuses and all these other things, really narrowing it down, right? Because I know how the search engines work. I couldn't find anything in Mandela effect. I couldn't at first. I'm like, what is this? What's happening? So I typed in. So once I came to Mandela effect, there was, eventually down the road, I ran into somebody called it Mandela effect, and there was only like 2 videos. One was about Berenstain Bears at that time, and one was about John F. Kennedy. Just 2. I'm not kidding. There was none. And so in my reality, that was 2015. Some people said the same before, but how do you know you're lying to me? See what I'm saying? You might be lying, and then if you did, maybe it's because history rippled for you like everybody else. It took a download or rippled before you. I'm not trying to insult you, because maybe you came from a different timeline, But I'm saying, because I'm keeping everything on the table. But I found it awful suspicious. I even checked the Google search engines, and they said the first report of anybody can call and the Mandela effect was exactly 2015. Look it up. So, we know Fiona Broom's a liar. Let's not go there. That's complete garbage. Her name, Broom, witch, get it? I'm trying to insult her, but I've talked to her before, and I don't trust her if they've died. So back to this whole thing, because I don't want to ramble. I apologize. I'm doing it again. Just I do, I'm tired, so I'll make this fast. You're like, oh my gosh, get to the point. So here's the thing is, so when I first came to this whole situation, I was in a divorce. Everything's falling apart around me. Everything's collapsing. Former wives, my kids are behaving different. Former wives being naughty, and I'm like, man, this is a nightmare. So I went down to Longmont, which is about 30 minutes from Erie. It's about a 25-minute drive. And I was like looking for answers outside. I started scouting the world looking for answers what was happening. Because everything was falling apart. I'm not kidding you. My goodness. I even got fired from Kaiser Permanente for being a whistleblower. So I was looking for answers. And the first thing you're going to do is look spiritually. When there's got to be something beyond this earth when this man didn't answer, lady didn't answer. So you start looking at spirituality. That's what's doing this. There's got to be answers out there, right? So I wasn't extremely spiritual, but I was starting to ease into it. So I went to it was a Cheers, gosh, what was this? God, what's the place? Why is it Cheers? It's not the show, but well, anyway, I went to, God, you know this. I apologize. It's anyway, it slipped my mind because I still got a headache. I'm tired. So I went down to Longmont to a pizza place, also a beer place, and I sat at the bar, and I was going through this terrible time with the former wife. She was just being naughty to me, and I was trying to figure out how to, what's wrong with our marriage, and she's trying to just cause me issues, and I said, man, I'm just trying to figure out what has happened here. And I was like, and I thought that was hell then, but I got way worse by the way. So I was sitting at the bar, at the still thing, and I wasn't even drinking. I just sat there, and it doesn't matter if I was drinking, I just wasn't. I was drinking like some water or something, and they ordered a Coke or something. And so this guy's sitting next to me, and he's a physicist. We started talking. We had a great time talking for about an hour and a half, and he was really interesting because this is what he told me. It was shocking. Now looking back at it, he may have had so many truths I wasn't even paying attention right from the get-go. Even before I went in the rabbit hole and started going to church and all these things. That's not sense wrong, but just going through all these different things about Mandela effect and all this, find the truth and gematria and all. I studied everything, going to all these churches and trying to find truths and where's God, and I was saying, well, this will we can buy. Anyway, so I don't know. Anyway, sorry about that interruption. He actually wrote a soul. He's a good one. I can read it at night. Remember they trained me that. He was actually 90% of the way there with heaven. Who the guys riding the bike. I can trust him 10 seconds. So it's crazy. See, that's the thing. Is somebody's working with us all the time from the higher command above with me. So anyway, because it's true. I could talk to this guy in about 10 seconds, and he's not a troublemaker. He's whistling. He's fine. But anyway, so I go in there, and so like I said, I was talking to this guy, and what blew my mind is he goes, because he's very intelligent. He goes, I want to tell you something. I said, what's that? He goes, so you having problems with the wife? Yeah, because I was passing my personal problems on it then, right? Trying to figure everything out. He goes, well, bud, this place is hell, don't you know that? I said, yeah, no kidding. It's got worse now. We got masks and all this other things, right, going on, right? And he goes, don't you realize what happened? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'm not 100% sure about this, like none of us are. He goes, I think that we came from another plan or place, whatever it is, and he said that we're living in a movie. Yeah, we're in a theater. And see, we've already talked about this. Now, oh my gosh. I wasn't ready to hear that kind of stuff back then. I was not even near this. I was at surface level. not even under Christianity. I hadn't even read the Bible much. I read like Old Testament, some basics, right? I'm like, what the heck is this guy talking about? And he goes, yeah, he goes, don't you realize we're like in a theater? And he said, I don't know, we must have made some kind of deal or paid for this adventure. You know, we paid our ticket. We bought a ticket, and we're here now. And he goes, boy, isn't it? You know, the only thing is, it's almost so real that it's scary. And I'm like, what's he talking about? What do you mean it's real and scary? He goes, yeah. He goes, can you believe this place? He said, man, talk about a real theater. He said, and then he goes, you know, the only thing is, he goes, man, we walked in the wrong theater, bud. I said, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, man. He said, we bought our ticket. We must have walked in the wrong theater because this place is hell. This place is just a nightmare. It's evil. He goes, we went to the horror show, and I think we're supposed to be at the dang theater next door to, you know, the theater next to this one, you know, in the theater room. And that's where the good one is. Somehow you and I walked in the dang wrong theater. And I'm like thinking, well, that is true. This place is terrifying. But I didn't realize how truthful about the theater part is. You break up Earth, it actually spells theater. Not kidding you. And remember, the world's a stage. It is. Even Jim Carrey says, it's a stage. You know, it's a divine comedy that God created, you know? Not Jim Carrey said, but he said he even knows this. And, you know, it's a divine comedy. And some guy said, boy, it's a divine comedy. Just, you know, God's laughing. He said, you guys forgot to laugh. It's painful. They were in this theater. And I'm like, whoa. So looking back at it, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He was nailing it dead on. Now, so did we volunteer? Matt says maybe we volunteered. That's how we got here. Or was it some adventure that we... no, I'm not. You get married. Everything's on the table. That our brains were wiped and our conscience was clean slated. They put us on some kind of in a pod, like even Avatar or whatever, and we're living in a simulation, a holodeck of the Star Trek, and it's so real that that we know it's not real, right? There's enough fakeness to it to know that it's artificial, at least a third of it. And I can explain more about that later. A third of it's not. A third of it's artificial, but part of it's not. Part of it's a quasi-reality and a quasi-not, right? And there's even a black and white movie. I forgot about what it is about. These people that go on and they buy a tour. It's tourism. They buy these tickets. Not a ticket. They buy this to go. This is old black and white. I can't remember the name. Darn it! I'm tired. And everybody there is just robots that they're engaging with. There's the old Wild West. You could choose different places that you want to go. One was you could go to Rome. Another one you could go to the Western. Remember at the end that there's a malfunctioning in the system, and all of a sudden, you know, this went way back. It's amazing that they have this kind of thoughts and theory, but it malfunctions and it ends up being a blending of Roman and the Western, and the robots actually start killing. That there's a malfunction. They don't know how to fix it. And boy, does that kind of sound kind of like what we're going through, right? I must have walked in a theater called Earth, and I should have been on the one that says Xanadu with the paradise. I'm not kidding you. I'm seriously, why? That's what I feel like. I said, my God, I walked in the wrong theater. And I did that when I was a teenager. Sometimes you'd walk in the wrong theater and be like, oh, I'm sorry, because in a small town, like, no, we'd actually be halfway in the movie. We were like, hey, what? I thought this was supposed to be Revenge of the Nerds, and why is this a horror? I'm seriously. We used to do that. It was like, why is this not Revenge of the Nerds? And no, or this is supposed to be Karate Kid. Why is this the creature from the Green Lagoon? You know, and so I'm just giving an example. I mean, seriously. And we're like, oh, well, it's because it's weird how the theaters are split apart there in Montrose. They'd have 3 or 4 at the same time, old school stuff. And I'm not kidding you could accidentally do it. It's ridiculous. That if you weren't paying attention, it's because you walked out the front and they had you just walked in the door, and it's a long story, you could. And yeah, I know we weren't that stupid, but you could. And sometimes we'd sneak out there, like, hey man, you know, they got that PG, because we're like, you know, we're underage, we're like, hey, you know, PG-13, man, let's go that one that's 16 or 18, but they got some cool stuff. So we'd sneak in there. you'd sneak out, act like you don't buy popcorn, and all of a sudden, pretty soon, you're watching, this horror or some partially nudity thing, right? So anyway, so he said this, and I'm like, what? And it's kind of like an exam. Your first inclinations when you take an exam on a test is use the correct one. And you try to second guess yourself, and I've been second guessing myself ever since, going, geez, was this reality? Who's that? Where's God? Where's the angels? Where's the Lord? What's happening? Geez, what? Are we in Revelations? Are we not? I mean, see, I've been all over the place. I was asking everybody, well, what's happening, right? And so it's like that. I've been second guessing myself and triple guessing myself, backstepping, and I'm even doing it now. I'm kind of retesting everything, rethinking things. So here I'm sitting there. So I'm trying to stay on focus here and he said this. He goes, man, I want a refund. And I said, what? He goes, yeah. He said, man, we got the wrong ticket. We got the wrong theater. And he goes, I want a refund because I didn't realize how bad this movie, this life thing that we got in, but it's a carnival. It's horrible. And he said, I want a refund. Somebody owes me a refund. And he said, I don't know how long we're stuck here, but when this movie stops, he goes, I'm asking for a refund. And he said that. He goes, when the dang show stops, I'm asking for a refund because he said, bud, this was a miserable nightmare. And he goes, somebody owes me a refund, and I want my money back for my ticket. And he was half joking, but half truth. You got to remember this. He's like, he's what do you call it? Tongue in cheek in it. Because he's like, I'm serious, man. And he goes, I want a refund. Okay. And so I kind of laughed. I said, I don't know if we're going to get a refund. He goes, yeah, because I'm telling you, he goes, we need to get out of here, this theater. He goes, I just can't find the exit. And is the exit stage left? There's an old exit where it says exit stage left. And I'm like thinking, where is the exit door to? I'm like, man, where is the exit? This place is nasty. And I didn't used to think it was so bad until I was awake. I said, this place is hell. It's horrible. I said, even then I'm like, this place, I want out. So he goes, I don't know where. He goes, I want to know where the exit door is out of this theater. Because, man, he goes, once we're in, he goes, man, we're stuck in this theater, bud. He goes, let's get the heck out of here. So then it goes deeper, right? So then that night he actually told me something. We started talking about physics. And I actually had a solution for, he had solved most. It has to do with kind of like energy, frequency, vibration, like Tesla. But he said, I've studied physics. And he goes, I can tell you that. He goes, bud, I've studied physics, and this place is not making sense. Kind of like he was leaning towards everybody else. If you study physics, far enough into, it's like, wait a minute, there's something beyond this creator, or there's code, and there's all these other things, right, that it can't be real. But anyway, so it has to do with tension, because he could not get the answer. And he told me about his theory on philosophy. He said, boy, him and his buddies, he said, we've been working for 15 years trying to solve this. He said, we're missing that one little piece. And it has to do with tension, I can tell you that. It's amazing. Because I don't know if the Holy Spirit or something just came into me in the light of that, but it's actually tension is another key to control. But see, and I wouldn't tell him. He was like, well, tell me what it is. I said, I'm not telling you. I don't really know you that well. And I said, you might blow up the dang earth if I told you. And then he actually got in this really weird joke about it. He goes, I am Rick and Morty show. That's what it is. He goes, we're traveling through time. He goes, which one's which? Is Rick, is he the young kid? He goes, because this guy was with me a little bit. He goes, and I'm, was it Morty? I can't remember what he said, I'm him and you're that guy. And he goes, I want the answer. And he was just kidding around. I said, no, I'm not giving it to you. Because I said, I've solved it. So whether I truly solved it, probably close. Because I usually get really nailing close this time. It has to do with tension. Because tension causes gravity, and explain it to you. Maybe I can come back and explain it to you someday about that. But I was afraid he was going to blow up the universe with it. I told him, I said, I ain't giving it to you. You're going to blow up the universe with me. So it gets weird. So he said, we'll meet again. He already knew about timing sequence. I said, what do you mean? He goes, oh, bud. Yeah, I said, what do you think the odds are? At the time, I knew nothing about timing sequence. I didn't realize until, 2 years later, I didn't know that's what he meant. He just said, we'll see each other again. He goes, why do you think you're in here? You and I are talking. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I just happened to see you. He goes, oh, bud, you'll see me again. He said, trust me. He said, I'll see you someday. He says, I said, really? He goes, oh yeah, she'll be. He says, I guarantee it. So I mean, like, really, yeah. So he knew this. So I mean, something like 6 months passed by. I come back and I talk to him again. Yes, and then we had more conversation about this, about the Rick and Morty. I still told him I'm still not giving you the answer. Talked about some problems, and he said that, watch the show, because he said that show is giving you hints of what we're living in this theater. At the time, I thought, why would you watch a cartoon? Now I know, man, watch music, cartoons, everything you can, because they're communicating us every direction you turn through music, that what this world's about, a reality, what's happening, all these other things, right? So I'm like, whoa, at the time, like, why would I watch that? I'm not really into the Rick and Morty. And I said, why would you be telling me that? It's so important. He said, oh, it's very important. He said, you got to watch that. So there is some keys, probably hints in there as well. But, so my point is this, is that, he was right. Man, is he right? The only thing he didn't tell in that story was the scripting part, that now that we're in the theater, we're part of the theater. And that's what I didn't realize. And so maybe that's like, black and white movie where they go on the vacation. One plays like a sheriff and the other plays this other parts. And maybe that's what it is. We're kind of like playing this thing, and maybe that's the reality. And, because that's what's interesting about this. Now, you can use this on your own accord, is that the Lord told me that the Demirs was real one time when I was in Phoenix. I thought, well, God, Demirs is real. But see, then again, no offense, Lord, you're just pointing the finger to another evil one too, whether it's Satan, above him, Demirs. It's a never-ending story of different types of evil characters. They said Demirs is supposed to be above Satan even, but I don't know. So he said, just so you know, that Demirs is real. And there's scripture that Jesus, when he's talking to the apostles, said he talked to them and told them that the Demirs was real. And so, but I read on it, and I said, boy, that's weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And whether it is or not, well, then you got to thank Demirs, because you have a life and you have to play part of this role, and then there's other stuff too, right? Right? So then he told me this. He said that aliens, and this is fine, because he never told me not to tell you, not stop this. He said aliens aren't real, Kirk. Not at all. I said, what? I said, really? He goes, no, not real. Just like that. Boom. I'm like, what does it mean, fallen angels? What does it mean? They're not real. He said aliens are not real. I've never seen a green alien, have you? Have not. Purple people eater? Nope. So I think he's telling the truth. Those aliens are all fake. And what that means for fallen angels? Some say, what the fallen angels? Well, they're not. Fallen angels have an antenna on their heads. I don't know. So he said it's all fake. Now, that's what I was thinking about this. That's what gets kind of creepy about this whole thing, is that you look at the transition of in the UFO story. In the 50s, they had these flying saucers that looked ridiculous. You could tell they were faked. I'm sure it looked like a dish out of somebody's kitchen. They just, stuck two of them together and photographed it and put a little weird antenna on top of it. So even the UFO story has developed as we've gone along, right? Now it's all sophisticated. There are V's, and all this, that now the aliens craft. So you're telling me that the aliens also advanced at the same time as us? I mean, they have these really higher tech ones now. If they had actually traveled across the galaxies, they'd have this modern tech ones even back then of these photographs people taking of the UFOs. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's bull crap. Yeah, it's all bull crap. The firmament would say that that's not true either, if we believe in the firmament. So, and also John Levy had a great video, I'm heading with all this, that he talked about how is it possible we have these old marble buildings, just beautiful buildings, structures around the nation, some in Utah, and different Capitol buildings, and all these, some buildings that claim were like, I don't know, some kind of museums or schools or universities, whatever they are, right? He goes, how in the world did they have those? They had plumbing in them, they had water running, and in the middle of these small towns, while the town basically had a horse and buggy out front, And he's got a good point. And they said they have this place. They said that they're using outhouses that are have you have these beautiful buildings, but then everybody else you still have to use outhouses. Everybody else, but these buildings had them right there. Yeah, he's right. It's like makes no sense. You got horse and buggies around you, so everybody, all the citizens, everybody, all these other buildings, you have to use the outhouse. But these one specific buildings there, they have running water, and then it makes you start to think, well, wait a minute. So where's the water treatment plant or the water that provides the water? There's any tanks sitting around? I mean, how are they feeding that plumbing system? Well, they could have tapped into, because Boulder, some of the hotels had run a line just to their hotel only with plumbing because they did it for the guests. But he's got a good point though. It's like, why wouldn't anybody else be running plumbing in their houses and these other things, right? Not everywhere do you have a nice fresh stream that runs off a mountain for water. There had to be a water filtration plant or something to do this, or some kind of viaducts that we can't see. There's no photographs of these, and so it does bring the questions like there is a misalignment between what the story is being told and what was standing there in the structure of the buildings. I got to agree with him that there, and it's interesting. That was one example how everything it's scripted. It's like so fake. It's almost obvious, right? So this is my final point, because it's getting late, and I apologize because this is already, oh my gosh, 41 minutes. I apologize, but so you can run this 2 times speed, hopefully, and speed fast, whatever, or skip through it. Hope you did that. But anyway, so another point of this is that I think that we are creating our reality. I told you about filtering, how it's like a radio station. Some people never see ghosts because they don't tune into it on the radio station on the dial. And it's like maybe aliens, maybe they don't exist, Lord said they don't, but maybe that unless you don't tune into that radio frequency, that you'll never experience the aliens. Because I have Native American friends that said, oh, I've seen them. And that's what's really important to, I got to keep reminding you, is that there's a Native American, he's got his own YouTube channel, Navajo. An old gentleman says that he's talking about how the ancestors, that the children lost their ways. He's right. He said it's a mess because they're not honoring traditions, they're not respectful like their ancestors were, all these things, right? Well, he said a key thing that really kind of triggered me was, oh, geez, I just thought about talking about the background of who he was. The key thing he said was that, he said that one time they were driving down the road, and they're that, because the Skinwalker Ranch, and he said, hey, he said he's like only like 5 or 6 years old. He goes, hey, Grandpa, he goes, I think I just saw Skinwalker, because they're driving out in the evening, and he got his butt chewed out. Oh my gosh! He says his grandfather said, "Don't you ever give them energy. Don't you focus on them. You only mention you and say that they're real." See what he just said? He goes, "Don't even say they're real." He said they don't exist in a roundabout way. He said you just don't even pay attention to. Because he goes, once you do, then you're making them come alive. I think that is true what he just said. If you can't, that's why the system has all these things that's trying to target, to give it energy, to manifest it and make it real here, right? So that's my thought, is that's what your grandfather was telling me. He says, don't, if you actually see something like that and keep believing it, pretty soon that Skinwalker is going to be walking at your front door, right? So remember, we kind of can create a reality. What you get, what you receive in this world, right? And if you borrow trouble, you're going to get trouble. So it is true that we kind of influence a reality around us. How much, I don't know. But don't get this whole manifestation stage stuff, but it is true that what his grandfather was saying, that, so maybe if you're into aliens and all of a sudden, pretty soon you're going to pop an alien in and you're going to see one, or expose you to somebody. Native American, for instance, said they've met aliens out on those reservations somewhere out and about, right? And that's why I think some people that, I saw ghosts because, I tuned into it and said, well, it could be interesting. I saw a ghost, and boom, pretty soon a ghost pops out. And that's what comes into this reality. You got to be very careful about what you give this reality, because it will, this system, this computer system, this God system, whatever this thing is, man, if you start going down a path, it will throw it right in front of you and come up with that. Yeah, you're right. That's what it is. And all of a sudden every time you go to a rabbit hole, it'll actually provide information to that rabbit hole to make you keep going through those rabbit holes, right? It is amazing. And somehow it reads the future, because if you start to make a move, it already puts it there. If you Wikipedia, it's like, oh my God, it does exist. Or there's examples that of it will actually manifest. This thing will to make you to make it become part of your reality, right? So that's our key to our game, is that we need to make sure that we focus on not having these things in our reality, and not acknowledge them, not acknowledge the things we want and positive. I think that is part of the key, that you have to focus on these things to make them real in our reality. Whether it's my individuality or yours, there's still got to be some kind of network here that we're working together to solve the solution, right? So that's why I think it's very important that we stay a positive attitude, we manifest good vibrations, we make people happy and try to ignore that evil, because it's a luring box with this, right? And so that's, I think that's all I have to say for now. So I'm sorry so long. So make sure that you focus on a reality that is positive, and don't introduce more things. I think that's why they throw all this stuff out through the predictive programming, and also make us believe all these things, because we're the battery energy behind them. So don't do that. So spend your energy on focus on things we want that are awesome, and hopefully that battery and that charge goes to those things. Keep positive. Don't feed that negativity. All right. So anyway, God bless. I love y'all.